So I hit Doc, and I said, okay, I need a response. I need a response from you.
Wow, that's pretty demanding
Doc,
for a guy on his free time.
Yeah, I'd like a response. I would like a comment on the idea that Brock Purdy is being rushed back to action. Quote, I don't believe that's the case. As long as he is not taking contact, this is what you would expect to be doing from month 4.5 to month 6, which is the window in which we sit. If he was taking contact, then I would think he would be rushing back. He is essentially doing what he would do in rehab at this point. It just happens to be in front of tons of people at training camp.
Right. And there's no possible chance that he's getting hit when he throws. And if you watched practice as you and I did, when pass rushers get around the offensive lineman, they don't go to the quarterback, they go around the quarterback and maybe tap him on the behind. The only sack we've seen is when Sam Darnold fell down. That's it.
Exactly.
So he's not in jeopardy of being hit or having his elbow be hit. No one's trying to challenge or deflect passes. Defensive linemen in 11-on-11s are just trying to get around the offensive linemen, and that's it. You get around them. You don't go near the quarterback. You're not even trying to block the pass for fear that maybe you get your hand up there and you jam his hand on the release. We didn't see any tip balls, did we?
No.
We saw no defensive lineman even trying to bat a ball down. They're working on their own moves and their own mobility.
Dibs, we've been doing this for a long time.
Decades.
Not just this show, right? We've been doing sports radio for a long time. I don't know if I've ever been more intrigued by a subject, a continual subject, than this year's 49ers quarterback discussion. Reason being is you can find almost any opinion you want out there. And people I respect on both sides of this, and I hate even calling them sides because they're not sides. The 49ers are one team, and I would continue to reiterate what my thought is on the overall quarterback position. I would like the guy in there who's going to win the game. That's it. I don't care what his name is. I don't care where or when he was drafted. I certainly do not care what color his skin is. None of that has anything to do with anything remotely near a hill of beans. But what's so incredibly fascinating about this is it may, more than any subject I've ever experienced before, you can have two human beings stand right next to one another, open their eyes to their full ability, watch the exact same thing, and turn to one another and go, one of them says, I saw blue, and the other one says, I saw red. It's incredible to me. So Brock Purdy returns. He's been QB1 all along. He never wasn't. So then the 49ers come out the other day and go, he's cleared. And people go, the 49ers have announced Brock Purdy as the starter. No, they didn't.
Right.
He was the starter the whole time. All they told you is he's going to be there tomorrow. And then he goes out there, and many of those same people, he's rushing back. And that was before he even threw a pass today. What are we talking about? Why do so many of you, and I know many of you don't, but why do so many of you feel that way? Why does it feel like whether it's Brock or Trey, or Sam for that matter, whatever they do, a portion of the fan base throws up a brick wall? They do something good. Yeah, but. And then they try something new. Well, that's not going to work. What are these blockades that you have to throw up? Brock Purdy's back. He was QB1 all along, and the first thing I hear from people is, well, he's obviously rushing.
Well, I don't even know what that means, to rush back in July when you're not even playing a preseason game. You're not even playing tackle football. You're a guy with a helmet on in shorts who's throwing a football. And you made a good point before the show. If he was not on the field, he would be in shorts. Maybe the helmet would be off, but he'd be throwing a football. And he'd be throwing it as much as he could, as hard as he could, as accurately as he could. He wouldn't be doing anything any differently, except for the fact that it's in front of a couple thousand people and all of the media. And that's why we all think what we want to think. And I think it comes down to confirmation bias, which is what you're talking about. Because if you're a Trey Lance fan, if you have a Trey Lance number 5 jersey and you really believe that he's the best quarterback, then you're going to say things like he's rushing back. They're rushing him back. And I heard Grant Cohn on this morning with the Morning Roast talk about the fact that they're rushing him back because Trey Lance is coming. Trey Lance is right there, and he's feeling the heat from Trey Lance. And he knows, Mark, Brock Purdy knows that if he doesn't keep the job, once Trey Lance plays with Christian McCaffrey and Debo and Ayuk and Kittle, which Trey Lance has never done. He's never played with all those guys. Once Trey does, well, Brock's not getting his job back. That's it for Brock.
Why? Okay, so there's two things that are so like cockamamie with that entire idea. First off, is anyone under the impression that Brock is making decisions here? Do you honestly believe
he tells Shanahan what Shanahan's going to do?
This multi-billion-dollar organization has an 8-game starter named Mr. Irrelevant, and they're letting him set his physical timeline? So Brock's got to get back on the field because Brock is worried about his job? And the Niners are like, okay, yeah. And then also, why would the 49ers be incentivized for Brock to beat Trey? And don't tell me it's about money, because in the grand scheme of things, Trey's cheap too. They're all cheap. Justin Herbert's going to make $52 million a year or something like that.
Wow.
You can add up all the 49ers quarterbacks, and they still only equal about a fourth of a quarterback in this league. So it's not about that at all. Brock is not setting his timeline, and the 49ers they are not incentivized to, make sure Brock is better than or looks better than Trey. If Trey's coming and Trey's fantastic, great. How about if Trey be fantastic? I'm pretty sure 2 years ago, that's what the 49ers wanted. That's what they were dying for Trey to be great. I'll tell you what I hear from NFL insiders. Trey's still third. I don't know. And again, I don't care. I want the best guy to play. So here's what I know. And here's what sort of like confuses me. Brock Purdy comes in QB1, and he's the only one in camp. They've got 4 quarterbacks. He's the only one who's had any sustained success in the NFL. He's the only one that can be like, yeah, I went on an 8-game run. He's the only one, I won 2 playoff games. He's the only one. Yet, he's the one that also seems, in many respects, to garner the least belief. Couldn't I argue, as far as belief in Brock, is there a possibility that this is Cinderella and the slipper doesn't fit? Absolutely, I'll acknowledge.
And if it does not fit, then he must sit.
Then and they will acquit.
Thank you.
Isn't the likelihood way higher that he's good? And if we were going to handicap this,
I don't know if it's way higher, but it's higher. It's higher.
Give me every quarterback who's had an 8-game stretch of high-level success. And sure, we can give you 3 or 4 names where it didn't work out. Carson Wentz comes to mind.
Yeah.
You might say Colin Kaepernick, though that's very complex.
We could do tit for tat on both sides of this argument, but I think you would find more cases where it did work than cases where it did not work. Geno Smith's a great example, because what Geno did last year, many people now are saying, oh, Seattle. I got Seattle as my 3rd best team in the NFC, maybe 4th best team. Seattle's coming. Geno Smith, that might have been a flash in the pan. That might have been a 1-year, wow, Geno is amazing, and he's really not that good. But because Geno Smith was drafted higher than Brock Purdy.
Oh, thank you for saying it.
Geno Smith had a better statistical year last year than Brock Purdy. He played more games, and he did more things for a team that wasn't as good, but isn't it just as likely that Geno Smith regresses than Brock Purdy?
Absolutely. How about Jalen Hurts? He's been good for 1 year.
Yeah.
And he didn't play in all the games either. He also got hurt. He's played in what?
He played 16 of them, I think.
No.
And he missed 2 or 3.
Yeah, he missed it. So
maybe, yeah.
I'm so glad you mentioned the draft position. Gosh, it's wild how we buy into it. Just because where they were drafted. This is a cool exercise. if you go through the whole NFL and just list quarterbacks who you would consider good, and maybe there'll be varying opinions on that.
Sure.
But let's go through the NFL, and I'm going to say you're a good quarterback. Allen, Tua, Rodgers, Lamar, Burrow, Watson, Trevor Lawrence.
Lamar, Burrow, Watson. All first-rounders so far except for Lamar.
Okay.
I think Lamar was he late first or early second?
Late first. Russell Wilson, Mahomes, Herbert, Stafford.
Yeah.
I'll give you Derek Carr.
Do I have to take Derek Carr?
Kirk Cousins.
He was a second rounder.
Even if I went Goff and Fields, we can be really liberal here. Hurts,
first,
and Dak. Like, of all of those guys, do you know how many of them were the first quarterback taken in their draft? In other words, they were evaluated
as the best quarterback in their draft.
Best QB available.
If you read the list again, I would probably...
You'd be able to get it.
Jared Goff was.
No.
He was number one overall, was he not?
Well, Wentz, yes, you're right. Yeah.
Goff was the first overall.
Goff, you could have a healthy debate over whether or not... He had a good year. I think prior to last year, people would have been like, he's not a very good quarterback.
Right.
But anyway, sure.
But even if you went back in time and just took the first quarterback taken in every single draft, that doesn't necessarily mean that they were the best quarterback in every single draft. And oftentimes they're not.
Burrow, Stafford, Goff, Lawrence.
We're the only ones who were the first quarterback in their
QB
draft.
Taken. So
Mahomes, no.
Mahomes, no. Allen, no. Aaron Rodgers, no.
No.
Lamar, no.
Niners took Alex Smith.
Deshaun, no. Russell Wilson, third round.
Yep.
Derek Carr, second round. I know somebody's going to go, Kyler Murray. I'm putting him on the not good list, at least for right now.
Well, he's hurt, too.
Yeah. Dak Prescott,
right
Jalen Hurts, these guys didn't even sniff the first round.
Yeah.
So I know that it's wobbly in spots because Mahomes and Allen and guys like that, Herbert, they were early top 15 picks. I get that. But my point is, why do we stick to that so hard? The original evaluation of the QB, and we stick to it as if I couldn't give you a list from the ceiling to the floor of dudes drafted in the top 10 who stunk out loud. I mean, stunk out loud. McNown and Achilles Smith, and we could go through all
too soon.
Jamarcus. We could do this over and over and over again. So why are we so stuck on one was drafted high, one was drafted low? Because we just gave a list, and half of them weren't even first rounders. So why do we now, 3 years later, we're still playing around with this? Why don't you? And I think that there are fair answers here, but I wonder what they are. Why don't you believe in Brock? If I take away the answer of, well, it just hasn't been long enough, okay, I'll acknowledge that.
It's been longer than Trey Lance.
Yeah, it's been longer than everyone in camp by far. And it's been longer than the majority of QBs in the NFL. It
hasn't been longer than Sam Darnold yet.
No, but
we feel like Sam Darnold is ahead of Trey Lance.
But I'm saying longer in terms of a run of success.
Yes.
Sam Darnold has never had it.
Right.
Trey Lance has never had it. Brandon Allen has never had it. There are other QBs around the league who have major resource put into them, and they could not boast an 8 to 10 game stretch of good play in the NFL. So why does it feel like for so many of you that it's more likely than not that this is fake, what you saw last year?
It's draft position. It's measurables. It's, it's a certain sense that Trey Lance has to be better than Brock Purdy. I think the first two answers that I gave are the most powerful. Number one, he was the last player taken, which means every team in the NFL passed on him
7 times.
I was going to say, because the Rams probably didn't have 7 picks. The Rams might have had one chance to draft him because they don't believe in the draft, but some teams had 10 chances to draft him. So between 1 and 10 times, every team in the NFL passed on Brock Purdy. And the other thing is the measurables. And not only the measurables, but you look at him, he doesn't look like a baller. He's got ruddy, red cheeks. I'm not going to say he's doughy as a guy who has called himself a fat red pumpkin, but he does have those rosy red cheeks, and he looks kind of like just a little guy.
No, I told you.
He's not big. He's not muscular.
When he leaves the game at Levi's Stadium, he looks like the kids walking home from high school down the street. He has a backpack on, and he looks the same size. I understand all of those things. What if I even said it this way? And I'll acknowledge this. This would probably be my opinion. What if there's a 20% chance? A 20% chance that Brock Purdy's actually not that good.
Okay, I'll buy that.
Okay? Even if, and I'll say that my opinion rests somewhere in there. So I'm not here to tell you it's a done deal.
Right.
But wouldn't you take that? When you say, if I could tell you, hey, we got someone and there's an 80% chance he's really good and he can consistently be a playoff performer, wouldn't you would draft that number one overall, wouldn't you?
80% is a percentage that hits very close to home with me.
Why?
Because when I had my reverse vasectomy, the doctor said to me, based on the age of my partner, he said, I'll give you an 80% chance that this works.
Okay.
And I said, you know what, Doc?
I'm in.
Cut me, Mick.
That's right.
His name was Chupin. He's a great surgeon, microsurgeon. And it's not only just a microsurgery because of me and my anatomy, it's a microsurgery anyway. But I digest. He told me 80%.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
When I hear 80%, it makes me think about my own life. And I said, yeah, 80%? I like 80%. 4 out of 5 chances are I'm going to have a baby, and she turns 11 months old tomorrow. So, yes, when you say Brock Purdy has an 80% chance of being as good as what we saw last year, I'm in, Mark.
What's your list of players in the NFL who have had an 8-game run of success, multiple playoff wins, and then stunk?
I'd have to Google it. It's a short list.
If anybody can fill up one hand, if you can get to 5 names.
One for the thumb?
I give you $100.
You got to Google
All right. You do the show.
Okay.
This is your dream. Solo show.
Oh, seriously.
Call Ephraim.
It's not my dream.
Get me Ephraim Salon.
I did it. I already lived the dream.
Exactly.
And then a pandemic broke out.
Coming up, Marty Lurie's interview with Johnny Bench. And that's next on Ace Talk.
No, isn't that, are those fair percentages? Are those fair? There's an 80% chance that Brock Purdy is exactly what he showed us last year.
I think it's fair.
Is that fair? I think that's fair.
What's the percentage chance that Trey Lance isn't really very good at being quarterback? It's probably not 80%, but would you say there's a 20% chance that Trey Lance is not good enough to be in the NFL?
Not good enough to be in the NFL? That's
not
a big
good
statement.
enough to be a QB1. I mean, yes, he's good enough to be in the NFL, but is there a 20% chance that he's not good enough to be somebody's starter for a good team?
I think it's higher.
Right.
I think it's higher than that.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
Which is why this notion of, they rushed Brock back because Trey Lance is coming. Trey Lance is knocking on his door.
Why the hell would they do that? Why
July.
would anyone do that? Is there someone, please, give me one good reason why this multi-billion-dollar organization and this kid who's only making $870K and has everything on the line, give me one good reason why both sides would come in and mess with this in such a way. Do you understand what you're suggesting? You're suggesting that because of the presence of Trey Lance, Brock Purdy is totally willing, and so are the 49ers, to put his entire career in jeopardy because they're nervous about something going the wrong way on July 27th. Like, what a weird, unfathomable thought, quite frankly.
Yes, for a team that is still, 6 weeks away from an actual game that matters, yet you're going to rush him back. The time to rush somebody back would have been last January when you were playing the Eagles and you had a quarterback get hurt and you had another quarterback get a concussion. That would have been the time to rush somebody back.
The Durant thing that you brought up is exactly it. He rushed back because they were in the middle of the playoffs and they were trying to win a ring. That's when you rush someone back. Oh my gosh, we're 8-6 and our playoff lives are on the line and it's week 15 or week 16 and damn it, we need this one. July 27th?
Yeah.
What are we doing? What are we talking about here?
We're not rushing a guy back to make throws in shorts and a soft padded helmet on a warm day in Santa Clara. That makes no sense to me.
His stats were terrible today, Dibs. Your thoughts?
Who cares? I mean, honestly.
A couple of overthrows.
And you know what? Against this defense, I would expect the stats to be bad. And the stats for everybody yesterday weren't great because this defense is nasty. And Kyle Shanahan even said yesterday after practice in the Mike Silver piece, the play calling and the structure of the offense was intentionally vanilla. And that's what you're getting now early on in camp. You're not going to have Brock Purdy step back, 7-step drop, and try to throw it, pump the ball down the field, or throw it into tight windows 30 yards down the seam. It's all pitch and catch right now.
His overthrows, to me also, that's way better than an underthrow. Wouldn't you be a little bit more scared if you're like, gosh, he tried to throw it 30 yards and it only went 25?
Yeah. If it was an arm-related thing, yeah.
We got a bunch of voices who were all at camp today, so we'll get into a lot of this. But again, we'd love to hear from you. And that's the question. Why, if you are, why are you struggling to find belief in Brock Purdy and what we saw last year? 888-957-9570. Let's go to Rob in San Bruno. Hey, Rob, you're on with Willard and Dibs. What are you doing?
Oh, man, on the way to the barber shop. But look, man, check this out. It seemed like y'all making excuses. At the end of the day, man, last year y'all said, oh, he didn't play good in camp. Well, he was playing against the best defense last year, and he had some days in camp where he balled out, and that was reported as well. Now y'all giving Purdy excuses. Bottom line is...
Wait, no, Rob, I'm going to stop you. Rob, I'm going to stop you because you have to define that. What excuses? We didn't, you have to define that exactly. What excuses are we making for Purdy? We're not even talking about a performance.
You're giving him excuses. Bottom line is he's short with a noodle arm. When the last time a short noodle arm quarterback won a Super Bowl? That was 30 years ago. So you tell me Kyle Shanahan's going to be the one to make it happen where he choked Super Bowls.
Rob, I'm going to give you one more chance. You failed when I asked you the first time. What is the excuse? Don't come back and say you're making excuses. Define that. What excuses are we making?
You was a Jimmy G fan last year. Now you a
here we go. Yep. Thanks, Rob. You can't do it. You can't do it. And this is my point. Confirmation bias. You're hearing what you want to hear. This is why Fox News and CNN's ratings are so high. So you'll sit down at 6 o'clock and go, all right, let's have this person tell me exactly what I want to hear. And if they don't, then I'm going to create a story in my mind about what they just said. I gave you 2 chances to tell me what we said. And the second time you brought up Jimmy Garoppolo, who plays for a different team. What excuses? I don't need to. It's day 2 of camp.
It's camp. Yeah, exactly.
I don't even know what we're talking about here. I wasn't even there today. I don't know how he looked.
I
wasn't
just looking
even there.
at throws on video and trying to dissect what I don't even think can be dissected, which is you got guys making throws in 11-on-11 where there's no pass rush, there's no pads, there's no tackling. This is level 2 on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of meaning to me. This is meaningless.
Short guy with no arm. 8-0. What matters more? The way he looks in shorts or the way the 49ers record looks when he plays? I know which one I'd pick.